Today we're talking about 5 very common farming mistakes that all new farmers should avoid. We're gonna go in details about the financials, we're gonna talk about not burning out, and we're gonna talk about how to structure yourself to avoid these things. It's coming up. So perhaps you don't know who I am, and that's okay. My name is J.M. Fortier. I'm a commercial vegetable grower. I've been growing for more than 20 years. I wrote a book called The Market Gardener. Perhaps you've heard about it. But in the last 10 years, I've been also mentoring and teaching young and aspiring farmers how to become really successful in their agricultural journey. Before I go on, I want to let you know that at the Market Gardener Institute, we have a class on beginning your journey in farming. And this class is really helpful to understand what market gardening is, what it isn't, and you'll see all the steps of how to operate a micro farm, if that's what you're interested in. So you can check that out. And so to get back to what we want to talk about today is the 5 common mistakes that I see all the time. The biggest mistake that I see almost all the time is that people start farming without a solid financial budget, a forecast, a business plan that's going to help them understand where they'll be in 5 years. That's really important. Where you want to be in 5 years with your farm is the golden answer. You need to have a clear picture of that in your head before you start your farm. And you need to have a business plan that's going to lay out the costs, the revenue, a projection of how you'll get there. That work is important in all businesses that you're going to start in life. But in farming, it's even more important because the margins are slim and the chance of getting where you want to go are very much determined by how you'll set up your objectives. So that's really, really important. A sound business plan and a forecast. It doesn't mean that it's going to be exactly that, but you need that before you start your farm. Simple. A lot of people can help you create your business plan. A lot of people can help you create a forecast, but you need that. If you're going to get somewhere, you need to have that goal pretty much well determined beforehand. To close, tip number 1, the Institute is having a free workshop, Money Talks, and we're opening the books of different farms that are making it work financially. So make sure that you register to that workshop. It's going to help you tremendously because when we're talking about creating a financial budget, a forecast, having numbers from other farms can really steer you in the right direction, okay? So that's coming up pretty shortly. Make sure to register for that. Mistake number 2, okay? And this one is, I would say, fairly common and very problematic, is that most new growers are so excited about growing commercially these crops that they want to grow all of them at once. And you need to master how to grow a few crops before you add new ones. Because a recipe for disaster is growing too many crops and not knowing how to do all the steps of these crops correctly. You end up planting a lot of things and harvesting just a few things. And it's too much work and it's expenses. And so my recommendation that I've always given, and it's a proven advice, is that if you're new to market gardening, even if you've worked on a few farms or for a few years, this is your first year of market gardening on your own, choose 12 to 20 crops to grow and focus on these crops, making sure that these will be a success. The other ones, you'll add them as the years goes on. You'll add 5 to 10 every year, and you'll come prepared for all of these crops, and you'll make sure that you know how to grow the crop every time you grow them. Mistake number 3, and that's one that's really common, and it's because it's a lack of knowing better, is that people fertilize their crops blindly. Or another way to say it is that they don't have a fertility program, or they don't know how to fertilize correctly the crops that they grow. So a fertility program needs to balance 3 things. You need to balance your soil type, it needs to balance the crop that you're growing, and it needs to be balanced with a mixture of compost and different organic fertilizers according to soil type and plant. Okay, that all works together, and that's 101. You can go really further. You can look at all the trace minerals in your soil. You can try to adjust all of these, but the 101 is to make sure that you're not just blindly fertilizing with a recipe that you took on YouTube, or that you're just putting a lot of compost thinking that it's going to feed the plant on itself. Most plants require that you fertilize the soil and the plant. So you're going to be depending on if it's a heavy feeder or a light feeder, which is determined by the number of days that the crop stays in the field and the amount of volume that the plant will take. You will need to determine X amount of compost and X amount of organic fertilizers to work together so that the plant takes what it needs. That's where and how an agronomist really comes handy. So these folks, they're there to help you create this fertility program for your specific farm. And it's a good advice to use these folks. Their craft is not perfect, but it's like a target, okay? You want to make sure that you're fertilizing closer to the target than just kind of blindly shooting an arrow anywhere else, okay? So that's that. That's mistake number 3. Mistake number 4, it's not just what you want to grow, it's what you're going to sell. That's a big distinction. Like, growing for market involves selling, and you need to make sure that you're growing the crops that are most likely to be sold. So choosing the right crops is really determined by your markets, and your markets, you should have a pretty clear picture of what it is, what people are buying, how much you'll be selling of what. Like, your whole planting scenario, your whole crop planning, which is a big part of market gardening, like, is determined by what you'll be growing and when you'll be harvesting all of that, in which quantities. To figure this out, it's really simple, okay? You need to just establish each markets. Is it farmer's market? Is it a CSA? Is it a restaurant, farm to table like we have here? Or is it a grocery store, whatever? Just make sure that you have all these columns, and determine how much of each of your vegetables you'll be selling to all these markets every week. So 25 bunches of carrots for my farmer's market, 50 for my CSA, 10 for the restaurant. That's 75 for that given week. And you need to map out all of your production in time like this for all your revenue streams. Okay? It sounds complicated, but it's not. And that's how then you'll be able to crop plan all of these crops and get really good at planting what you exactly need. Mistake number 5, it's the last one I'll share. It's super common and it's really easy to avoid. And that mistake is the folly of working 7 days a week. Okay? When you're new to farming, or when you're in your first few years, there's so much work. There's building greenhouses, there's building your clientele, there's creating all your systems, there's learning how to grow, there's learning how to manage. Like, there's so much work. It's endless amount of work. And too many inexperienced growers don't know that if you work 7 days a week, then you end up being less productive the following week. You absolutely need at least 1 day to rest, recharge your battery, refocus, replan, just kind of a little 1 step back for 2 steps forward. That's a very common mistake that people make. And it's one that, again, from experience and from the experience of a lot of people that I've helped along the way, you're better off working 6 days a week. You'll get more done than if you're doing 7 days a week. Take 1 day off to rest, recharge, reconnect with your family, your friends, with yourself, and that's going to help you tremendously. I could go on and on and on, but I would invite you to understand that a farming journey is about making mistakes. So don't be too bad on yourself. Don't judge yourself. No one is watching over you. Like, this is your journey, this is your path, and making mistakes is part of the process. But again, there's things that you can avoid, there's a path of least resistance, and there's experience from people like me that can help you along your journey. If some of this is interesting to you, especially the first mistake, which is about financial planning, we're having a workshop on the financial of farming. It's January 14 to the 16th. It's free, it's online, you just need to register for it. Can really help you better understand the dynamics of budgeting, of forecasting, and we'll have the examples of all these other growers that are having really amazing numbers. That's going to inspire you. It's going to help you, hopefully, get financially sound sooner than later. Hope this helps, and if anything, I'll see you next time. JM out.